Well, we are in a moment in history where we no longer need to use technology, we no longer need to wear technology, we can actually become technology.
Instead of using technology to create art, we can use technology to create ourselves. We can design our senses, we can design our bodies, and we can design our perception of reality.
So in the same way that a sculptor will actually use a hammer to sculpt a piece of stone, we are actually using cybernetics to sculpt our brain. And in the same way that you can modify a piece of stone to create a sculpture, we are modifying our brain to create new senses. And then in the same way that a sculpture will change the way we perceive reality, creating new senses will also change the way we perceive reality.
The main difference of the sculpture and the cyborg senses is that a sculpture can be seen by anyone, but the cyborg senses can only be perceived by the artist. So cyborg artists are not only the creators of the artwork, but also the only audience who perceive their own art.
So Moon, for example, is a cyborg artist. She actually has a new sense. She has created an artwork that is inside her body. She has the seismic sense. So she has a small chip in her arm that vibrates whenever there's an earthquake in the world. So if there's a seismic activity in China or in Japan, her body will vibrate. So her body is connected to seismographs all around the world, so she feels earthquakes, and she has this new sense which is inside her body.
Neil is also a cyborg too. He developed a sonochromatic sense. So he has an antenna implanted in his skull that allows him to perceive color through sound vibrations. So for him, color is sound. The color that he hears is not arbitrary. He actually hears the note of the light frequencies. The antenna not only allows him to perceive the colors of the vision spectrum, but he goes beyond, and he also perceives the ultraviolet and infrared, so he actually perceives more colors than us.
So in the creation of cyborg art, there's the creation of the sense, which is invisible because it's inside our minds, and then there's the creation of the organ. In my case, the sense is sensing color beyond sight, the organ is the antenna. In Moon's case, the sense is the seismic sense, and the organ is this small bone inside her arm.
So in order to share the experience that we have of our own senses, we create external artwork, so we can share our own experience with an audience. So one of my external artworks, it's called Waiting for Earthquakes, where I stand still waiting for an earthquake to take place, and when this happens, which is very often, I move according to the intensity of the earthquake. So this piece is based on real time, it's a durational, and it's like a duo between the earth and myself. So earth, in this case, is like a choreographer, and I'm the interpret of the rhythm that the earth marks. I also created a cyborg sculpture. It's a 3D replica of my arm, and this is exhibited in Barcelona, so visitors can touch the arm and feel vibrations in real time if an earthquake is happening in that moment. It's a cyborg sculpture because it's a sculpture connected to a living organism, which is Earth. And I also shared my experience with percussion. I do seismic percussion. So the rhythm of the drums are based on the rhythm of the tectonic plates. So Earth, in this case, is the composer of the piece.
I also try to externalize my sense, my new sense of hearing color. One thing I do is instead of drawing someone's face, I actually do sound portraits where I get close to someone's face and then I listen to the sound of the eyes, the lips, the skin, and the hair, and then I send them an audio file of their face. I just did one of Marina Abramovic, so in the lift, she sounds very quiet. Her hair is almost silent. Her skin is F-sharp, shades of F-sharp, and her lips are very loud F. So each person has its own harmony because we all have different color combinations. Al Gore, for example, has different colored eyes, different shades of turquoise, so he has different notes. Bono has one note less, so he has no hair. And Judi Dench has also got silent hair because there's almost no color. So we all have our own sound, our own chord in the face. Another way of externalizing my sense is by creating color concerts. I no longer need to play an instrument. I can actually compose music by looking at colors. So what I do is I look at different colored objects, and then I amplify the sounds from my head to the audience, and then I create music from looking at colors. So I go to a supermarket and I choose which notes I want to play, because supermarkets are like nightclubs for me, because it's full of colors, full of music. So I can choose which notes I want to play, and then on the day of the concert, I play those products. Also, another way is to paint what I hear, because if color is sound, sound is also color. So music is color. I can paint what I hear, so I paint music, or I paint also speeches, because when we speak, we have dominant speeches, dominant frequencies that correspond to dominant colors, so you can paint people's voices. Also, I'm creating clothes so that I can wear songs. So this is a tie I made that I listen to electronic music, and I like the melody, so I put it into a tie so that I can actually scan the tie and I can hear electronic music. So the longer the melody, the longer the tie. Also, another project we're doing is a restaurant in Barcelona, where you'll be able to go to the restaurant and choose which song you want to eat. It will be a plate, a rotating plate, that will have a sensor behind, and then when you rotate, you can hear the sound of the food, the color of the food. So you can actually compose music, and you can actually eat your favorite song.
So traditionally, our senses keep degenerating the older we get. But the good thing of having new senses made by cybernetics is that the senses keep evolving. So Neil and I look forward to get old, because the older we get, the better our senses will be.
Yeah, my next stage, for example, is to actually control the antenna without having to use my arms. So now I have to use my arms to move the antenna left or right, but I want to have this tooth. I'm creating a tooth that will allow me to move the antenna independently. So it will be controlled through Bluetooth. So it will actually be a Bluetooth tooth that will allow me to control the antenna. Also, one of the latest upgrades is having internet in my head. Since 2013, I have internet connection in my head, so people can actually send colors to my head from other parts of the world. I've given 5 people permission to connect to my head, so they can actually use their mobile phone to stream live images to my head, and then I can feel colors that are far away from me. So if there's a beautiful sunset in Australia, my friend from Australia can actually stream live images from his mobile phone to my head, and if I'm facing a wall, I will actually be experiencing a sunset, because I'll be receiving these colors from far away.
So actually, internet allows us to feel things that are happening very far from us. So my seismic sense is spread around the world. So if now there's an earthquake in Alaska, I will feel that Alaska is in my body, but I will also feel that my body is in Alaska. So the boundaries between my body and Earth are very blurred. So if we use internet as a sense, we can perceive things that are very far from us. We can perceive things that are happening in the other side of the planet, but we can perceive things that are even happening out of space. So now my current project is to connect to the moonquakes, the seismic activity that is happening in the moon. So now I have another implant in my right arm that is ready to connect to the seismograph in the moon. So I'm feeling earthquakes in this arm, and I will feel moonquakes in the other arm. And this will allow me to be here and in space at the same time.
I also enjoy using the internet connection in my head to connect to NASA's International Space Station, because then I can perceive the colors from space. So using the internet as a sense is one of the main explorations that we are doing now, and actually to use the internet to send our senses to space. So instead of traveling to space, we can actually send our mind to space and feel that we are there. So we actually feel we are mindstronauts or sensestronauts, because our senses are there while our body is here. Imagine when we can actually 3D print our own DNA. We'll be able to 3D print ourselves in other planets, so we won't need to travel to Mars. We will be able to 3D print ourselves in Mars and then use internet connection as a sensory extension that will allow us to feel that we are there.
And now that we are cyborgs, we don't feel closer to robots or machines. We actually feel closer to nature and to other animals. I feel closer to Earth because I can feel that it vibrates every day inside my body. I feel like I have 2 heartbeats, my own and the pumping of the Earth. So the extension of our senses will change the understanding and our behavior in this planet.
Also, it changes the society in a way, because cyborg artists are their body is art, so it actually, there's no separation between life and art. So we have some issues as well in daily lives. Like in my case, my passport, I wasn't allowed to renew my UK passport because they said that electronic equipment is not allowed on passport photos. So I told them that this was not an electronic equipment, but a new body part, an extension of my senses, that it should be allowed in the passport photos. And in the end, they said yes. So in 2004, they allowed me to appear in the passport, and this allows me to travel. Now with the new antenna, the new passport allows me to travel freely. But becoming a cyborg not only has artistic consequences, it also has social consequences. I'm also now applying for Swedish nationalship because my antenna is actually Swedish. There's material in my head that is Swedish. So I sent them an application saying that I am Swedish, so I should be allowed to become Swedish. They still haven't replied, so we'll see what happens. So yes, as Moon was saying, we are now feeling more connected to nature. We feel more connected to other species. We actually identify ourselves as trans species because we are adapting senses from other animals. We are adapting organs from other animal species. So we feel we are connecting to other animal species in ways that we didn't before. So in the same way that we don't need to live in the gender we are born with, we no longer need to live in the species we are born with. We can actually redesign who we want to be. We can redesign which species we want to become. And we might all be witnessing the renaissance of our own species. Thank you. So we will now do a small performance where Moon is connected to online seismographs. So if she feels an earthquake during the performance, she will drum harder or lower. So depending on the intensity of the earthquake she feels during the performance, the percussion will vary. And I'm connecting my head to NASA's International Space Station, and I'll be sharing the sounds from space. We can, yeah, so. So I'll be playing to you the sounds of space. And I'll be adding layers of sound because it's very noisy up there. Are you receiving? Yes. This is it.
One earthquake in California. 2.1 earthquake in California. 2.1 earthquake in California. 4.2 earthquake in Chile. 4.2 earthquake in Chile. 4.2 earthquake in Chile.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.